Hi, my name is Drew Pomeroy, and welcome to this beginner-friendly series on learning RStudio and Shiny Apps I/O for athlete monitoring. In this series, we'll be exploring how to create a dynamic and user-friendly web application to monitor athletic performance, specifically focusing on baseball players. All right, so our next piece here, I want to create a percentiles table. So what this is going to be telling us is, hey, when I select a player, look into their age group, and then display the percentiles table with all of the metrics that show up in our metric tables or our dropdowns. So I'm actually going to put this right underneath here, which is our player details section. So I'm back in the UI. What we're going to do, and I've already got this written out, I'll just paste this in. So just make this, and we want this to show up directly under our player details section. So we're going to do the same thing, same header that we used up here. This is going to be percentiles for selected metrics. That's the text that's going to pull through. And then this will be a table output. And then it's going to be our percentiles table. So we'll be calling that later on down the line. So let's go ahead and hop into our server code and see how we can get this to display. All right, so what we want to do here, we're at the top of our server code. We're going to go down. So this kind of render event ID, all this stuff, we find that max number of the event. I'm going to place this just below that. And what we want to do here is render this percentiles table right here. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. Render percentiles table based on the selected player's age group. So what we're going to want to do here is an output. And this is going to be percentiles table that we made up above. And we want to render a table in here, do our squiggly. What is required? It's going to be the input player name. All right, so that's saying when I select that player name, this is, we're going to need that player name in order to spit out this percentiles table because we're looking at the age group associated with the player name. Do a couple spaces. What we need to do is define our player data here. And let's call this, we're going to filter new assessment. I believe we've done this before, but it shouldn't matter if we're rewriting this. So filter new assessment, full name, and then equals the input player name. Then we want to also get the age group, and I want it to be unique. Player data, that's where I want to pull that from. And what are we looking into? Our column header, age group. And then we have our historic data, right? But we want it to be filtered. Because we just want to look at this stuff for the age group. So let's filter this out. Obviously, we're calling on historic data. Obviously, again, call back to the age group equals age group. And now what we're going to do is actually define all of the metrics in this table. This is a shitload of text, so I'm going to copy it in. Pause if you want to be able to type all of it in. But again, this is just our column headers that we want to put within this table. We've done this before for our other metric tables, so it's the same thing. So you can copy these from the other metric tables. You can do the call names command in here and get them. But this is going to be all the ones that we want. So kind of tried to, categorize them a little bit. All the bilateral stuff is here, shoulder, straight leg raise, the supine stuff. So kind of tried to keep it somewhat organized. But yeah, pause that if you want to, and I'll move right along. I'm actually going to create a percentile data here. And what we're going to do is an lapply. All right. So what is lapply? What this is saying is we're going to apply a function to our vector. So what we created here, this was our metrics vector. So we have all of these in a vector called metrics. What I'm going to do is apply this to metrics, and this is the function that I want to apply. So metric. All right. We're gonna get our squiggly back. So let's define these values. Okay, and historic data filtered is what I want to look into. Two of these guys, and again, call back to that metric. All right, let's define our percentiles, P25. Let's go ahead. How we do this in R, it's something called quantile, and this is where we'll define the values for that. So the 25th percentile. Again, we just want to say, hey, if there's nothing there. All right, and P75. Again, quantile, that's how we get our percentiles there. Values 0.75, and then na.rm. Awesome, equals true. And here we're going to take metric equals metric. All right. Then we're going to do these things again. 25th percentile. Learn how to spell. It's okay. And that's going to equal, obviously, P25. So same thing. What we're going to do is 75th percentile. And that's going to equal P75. Nice. That can be done. You can see I have another one of these down here. So what do we need to do? Keep on keeping on. So what I want to create is actually a data frame here of this information. And we're going to call on this later. So do call. And now we're going to rbind. So why are we using an rbind? What that does in the do call function that we have in there, we just are combining these process data frames that we just created with the lbind and putting that into a single data frame. So that's all this is telling us to do. So do call rbind and percentile data. All right, as data frame. So we're going to get the percentile data frame here, and then strings as factors equals false. All right, so that should complete our table. Let's go ahead and run this now. All the way back up to the top. All right, UI server, shiny. And boom, we can see we've got these percentiles for selected metrics. So everything that we've got in our metric tables is all listed out here, and just a good test to see if these update. So let's specifically pay attention to our shoulder external rotation left here. So Steve, good old Steve Schartz, he's in our 14 to 17 age group. What happens if we click Sammy Sosa, who's in our 21 plus? We see these start to change. And same thing for mobility, he's in our 10 to 13. We see that change as well. Barry Bonds back to our 14 to 17, and we can confirm that 14-17 matches Steve Schartz 14-17. So these are updating appropriately. Now what we need to do, I actually don't want to display this, I just wanted to show how we get it, and then have a little quick test on how we switch the players, switch the age groups. So the next piece that we'll do is getting this information into here. So I've got my 10.5 RSI. I want to have that 75th and 25th percentile line on this graph as well. And then when I switch, I want it to pivot here for the 10.5 air contact. All right, so now that we've displayed that table that's got our 25th and 75th percentiles, what I want to do is actually not display every single metric that's in there. I actually want to display only the selector metrics from that longitudinal section. So we're going to update what we're doing in here so we can display it that way, and that's going to really help us with getting that into our longitudinal graphs. So first what we'll need to do is going to be updating our server code at the very beginning with a reactive expression to gather some selector metrics from the longitudinal dropdowns. And then we'll update the reactive expression to calculate those percentiles, and then we'll update the rendering of the percentiles table to display those filter metrics. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, what we'll need to add in here is, let me just go ahead, I just had this in here. So, all right, so the first thing that we're gonna need to do is actually add a reactive expression in here. So we're gonna put this all the way at the top of our server logic here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this in. So this is what we'll need to do, reactive expression to gather selected metrics from longitudinal dropdowns. So we're gonna add in here something called selector metrics, and that is going to include the input from our selected 10, the selected CMJ, upper, and etc. So this is going to make it really easy to call back our selections there. And sorry if my voice sounds a little funny, I'm a little sick, so just bear with me as I'm going through this. All right, so now what we're going to need to do is update the reactive expression to calculate percentiles. So if I want to just search for that, we can go ahead and get that done. So what I want you to find in here is render the percentiles table that goes on down here. So find that output percentiles table. This is going to go in just above that. You can remove everything else that we wrote previously. We're going to write something brand new in here just to get this whole thing to work. So this is going to be above that render the percentiles table and right below the find the max event number. So what I want to do in here, let me just find where I put this. All right, what we're gonna do, pretty similar to last time, so it's gonna be percentiles data. Just gonna be reactive, get our squiggle, and required is actually just gonna be input and player name. So let's continue down here. We're just gonna call this player data again. And we are gonna filter the new assessment by full name. That's going to equal the input of player name and age group. We did this before too, so our age group, right? That's going to be that unique player data, and we're gonna get the age group. Nice. Let's continue on to our historic data filtered is what we want to call this. So we're going to filter our historic data by age group. Age group. Now we're going to add in here metrics, which is just going to be our selected metrics that we just did earlier. If I could spell. Selected metrics. And now we're going to get into the percentiles. So we're going to call this percentiles. Make this a data frame. Look at the metric, which equals metric. Uppercase to lowercase. Sorry, that's actually not true. This is going to be, that is a character. All right, hit a little comma after you put in your brackets there, your parentheses. And then bring back that little toggle thing, 25th percentile. Okay, get outside of that is going to equal numeric, right? This logically makes sense. 75th percentile, also going to equal numeric, makes sense. And then strings as factors, we want that to be false. And then don't put a comma after that last one. We're going to continue this thing on, and we're going to actually write another little piece in here. So for metric in metrics, all right, bring us a squiggle back. If metric in call names, historic data filtered, 2 parentheses, another squiggle, and this is what we're going to call P25. Remember we did this earlier, but we're just going to make this look a little better. So we've got quantile, historic data filtered to brackets metric, right? Because that's our selected metric, comma 0.25. That quantile is giving us saying, hey, we're finding the 25th percentile. And then if there's anything that doesn't exist in there, we just want to make sure that we get rid of those. And P75, no comment after that last one. Same thing, historic data filtered. Obviously, we're looking into that selected metric. And this one's going to be 0.75. na.rm equals true. And then we're going to put this into percentiles. And we're going to rbind this. Rbind percentiles into a data frame. Data.frame. All right, and this is where I do that metric equals metric. And then we want to have the 25th percentile. Let me just copy this in. 25th percentile. And that is going to equal P25. Give ourselves a comma. I'm going to paste that in again and change this to 75th percentile, which is going to equal P75. Easy peasy. Okay. Now, 2 parentheses, one of these, one of these. Give me a couple spaces, and we're going to write percentiles here. Nice. Render your table output. I think you might not have this row names equals true here. That was new. Put in, so go ahead and add that. Make sure you might also have like, you know, another squiggle that looks like that. Make sure that's not there because that actually ends our server logic. So we want to make sure that we still have that. Then it gets onto our range of motion stuff. So let's run this and see what we've got going. That's the trick you can use is, where are you going in here? Maybe I want to go to my user interface and it brings me right up. So I actually just learned that the other day. Makes it super easy to run the code again. All right, so what we've got here is we're gonna need to look at this, just how it binded everything. It just kind of placed this. This is just an organization thing. So this can be ignored. We'll get rid of that here in a minute. But we can see we have the metric. We have that 25th percentile and 75th, and it looks like it's picking the first ones from our drop down. So let's go ahead and just change our 10.5 to the air contact. And we can see that that updates with air contact. So that's perfect. Now what I really like to do, I'm not sure this is possible yet, but pull on, right? These are all auto updating and saving into their own data frame. So I have a feeling we're gonna be able to call into here and then be able to put a green and a red line for our 75th and 25th percentiles into our longitudinal graph itself. So I'm gonna go ahead, we're gonna remove these real quick. We're off to the left side, and then we'll get this stuff, try and add it to our longitudinal graph there. All right, we're gonna go ahead and remove where we had kind of that 25%, 25% 1, 25% 2. That was going on and rendering the table and putting in these row names here. As you can see, so we set row names to true, but we never actually named them really. And I just don't give a shit if they're there or not. So if we just change this to false, and if I head back up to my server code, let's go ahead and run that. And now they're gone. So we can see that we've gotten rid of that. So pretty easy fix there. Now let's see if we can go ahead and get these in our longitudinal graphs. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to stay updated on the next video, and I'll see you in the next one.